Here is the fastest way to ruin your entire life, forever. First, make sure you're always glued to your phone. Who needs real human connection when you have the endless scroll of social media? As the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once said, hell is other people. Well, with your trusty phone you can create your own personal hell right in the palm of your hand. Ignore the people around you, miss out on meaningful experiences, and let your fear of missing out run wild as you constantly compare yourself to the curated highlight reels of others. The key to misery is to prioritize virtual validation over genuine connection. Make sure you're consistently late and always have an excuse ready. Bonus points if you can blame someone or something else for your tardiness. As the psychologist Carl Jung warned, you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. But as long as you have a good excuse, you can avoid ever becoming anything at all. Constantly letting others down and shirking your responsibilities is a surefire way to burn bridges and isolate yourself from anyone who might have once relied on you. While we're on the topic of avoiding responsibility, be sure to develop an external locus of control. Believe that everything happens to you, not because of your choices. As the cultural critic Roxane Gay aptly put it, when you believe you are entitled to everything, you are willing to sacrifice nothing. And sacrificing your own agency is the first step to a life of stagnation and misery. Never take ownership of your mistakes. Always play the victim and watch as the world passes you by. Now, let's talk about interpersonal relationships. Whenever you're in a conversation, make sure to steer it back to yourself. Interrupt others, one-up their stories, and generally make everything about you. As the narcissistic character of Patrick Bateman in American Psycho demonstrates, being self-absorbed and dismissive of others is a great way to alienate everyone around you. Slowly but surely, you'll drive away even your most patient and loyal friends. Remember, the key to isolation is self-absorption. Consistency is the enemy of self-sabotage, so make sure to be as unpredictable and inconsistent as possible. Say one thing, do another. Make promises you can't keep. Constantly shift your values and priorities. As the Joker famously said in The Dark Knight, I'm like a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. Embrace that chaos and watch as others lose faith in your reliability and trustworthiness. Of course, no guide to self-sabotage would be complete without addressing your inner world. Instead of making plans or putting in effort, simply wish for things to be different. Engage in activities that drain your life energy, instead of making you feel strong and capable. As the philosopher Alan Watts observed, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. But why join the dance when you can sit on the sidelines and wallow in your own inertia? Convince yourself that you are fundamentally unworthy of redemption or positive change. As author Brené Brown noted, shame corrodes the very part of us that believes we are capable of change. Embrace that shame and let it corrode away any hope for a better future. Constantly compare yourself to others and focus on your shortcomings. As the social psychologist Leon Festinger's theory of social comparison suggests, we determine our own worth based on how we stack up against others. So make sure to always measure yourself against an impossible standard and come up short every time. Another key to ensuring a miserable existence is to never express gratitude for what you have. Take everything for granted and focus only on what you lack. As the philosopher Epictetus taught, he is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. But why be wise when you can be perpetually dissatisfied? Cultivate a sense of entitlement and bitterness, and watch as your capacity for joy and contentment withers away. Be sure to surround yourself with toxic and negative influences. As the motivational speaker Jim Rohn famously said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So make sure those 5 people are as miserable and self-destructive as possible. Seek out friends who will encourage your worst impulses, enable your self-sabotaging behaviors, and drag you down to their level. Remember, misery loves company. Another surefire way to ruin your life is to neglect your physical health. Eat poorly, avoid exercise, and engage in risky behaviors like substance abuse. As Nietzsche wrote, there is more wisdom in your body than in your deepest philosophy. But why listen to your body when you can treat it like a dumpster instead? Ignore the mounting scientific evidence about the impact of diet, exercise, and sleep on mental health and well-being. After all, A healthy body might lead to a healthy mind, and we can't have that. While you're at it, make sure to neglect your mental health as well. Bottle up your emotions, avoid seeking help or support, and convince yourself that you can handle everything on your own. As the character of Rob Gordon in High Fidelity observed, only people of a certain disposition are frightened of being alone for the rest of their lives at 26. We call these people. Embrace that fear of vulnerability and watch as your emotional isolation slowly eats away at your soul. Another key component of a miserable existence is to avoid any sense of purpose or meaning. Don't bother exploring your passions, setting goals, or contributing to something larger than yourself. As Viktor Frankl, the author of Man's Search for Meaning, noted, life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. So make sure your life is as aimless and directionless as possible. Float through your days without any sense of direction or intention, and watch as the existential dread slowly consumes you. Make sure to stay rigidly confined to your current beliefs and worldview. Reject any notion of a growth mindset or personal evolution. As author Carol Dweck wrote, the view you adopt for yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life. So adopt the most stifling, limiting view possible and watch your life shrivel up before your very eyes. Surround yourself with echo chambers and confirmation bias, and attack anyone who dares to challenge your perspective. The key to stagnation is to close yourself off from new ideas and experiences. Every time you blame someone else for your problems, every time you prioritize your phone over real human connection, every time you refuse to take responsibility for your actions, you're one step closer to a lifetime of regret and unfulfillment. At least you'll have your social media followers and your own bitter resentment to keep you company. And really, what more could you possibly need? After all, as the great philosopher Albert Camus once said, you will never be happy if you continue to search for what happiness consists of. You will never live if you are looking for the meaning of life.